In the sunny beachside town of Malibu, California, the life of a well-known Dr. Thomas Ethan Blake ended in a horrifying way. He was found dead in his big, fancy house. What makes this case so scary is that he was stabbed 123 times. The main suspect? His picture-perfect wife, Alyssa Blake, a social media influencer who meticulously curated her online persona, showcasing a life of luxury, glamour, and seemingly unbridled happiness. But behind the facade of their idyllic existence lurked a sinister truth, a love story twisted into a macabre obsession that culminated in a horrific act of violence. Methan Blake was Malibu's golden boy, the doctor with the Midas touch who could sculpt beauty. He had it all: a thriving career, a stunning wife, a life that seemed straight out of a magazine. Alyssa, his wife, was the Instagram queen, flaunting their seemingly flawless life, the sprawling mansion, designer clothes, and endless parties. Where people envy their perfect life, they don't know what lies behind this perfection. Behind closed doors, Alyssa was battling a monster: obsession. She craved the perfect life so much that it warped her mind. Imagine being so obsessed with looking perfect that you start to see threats everywhere. That's what happened to Alyssa. The first signs were subtle: a nagging comment here, a jealous remark there. Soon her insecurity blossomed into full-blown paranoia. She began monitoring Ethan's every move, tracking his phone, scrutinizing his emails, and even tailing him in her sleek Mercedes. Every action was a potential threat to their perfect life, and she was determined to control it all, no matter the cost. What began as a desire for perfection soon morphed into a suffocating grip on Ethan's life. Ethan's close friends and colleagues saw the cracks forming in their seemingly perfect marriage. They witnessed Alyssa's controlling behavior firsthand, the way she clung to Ethan like a shadow, her eyes always scanning the room for potential rivals. Ethan, once the life of the party, grew withdrawn and anxious. His infectious laughter was replaced with strained smiles, his carefree spirit crushed under the weight of Alyssa's relentless scrutiny. Alyssa, on the other hand, seemed to be getting worse. She was always worried about what other people thought of her, and she didn't want Ethan to talk to any other women, even if it was just for his job. She made him stay away from his friends and family, and she even started to hurt herself and blame it on him. Alyssa's paranoia was reaching new heights. She was consumed by the fear of being judged, of not living up to the impossible standards she had set for herself, not realizing the consequences it would provoke. She forbade Ethan from interacting with female colleagues, accusing him of infidelity even when there was no evidence to support her claims. She isolated him from his friends and family, creating a suffocating environment where her anxieties reigned supreme. Then, a seemingly innocuous event triggered a chain reaction that would forever alter their lives. A misinterpreted conversation, a fleeting glance, a harmless interaction. It was all Alyssa needed to convince herself that Ethan was betraying her. Her jealousy, fueled by her deep-seated insecurities, erupted with devastating force. She intensified her surveillance, installing hidden cameras throughout their home and tracking Ethan's movements with obsessive precision. She was determined to uncover the truth, even if it meant destroying the very relationship she so desperately wanted to preserve. And soon she'll reap the consequences of her actions, realizing too late that trust is easily shattered but nearly impossible to mend. Ethan, unaware of the extent of Alyssa's descent into madness, found himself ensnared in a web of paranoia and suspicion, his life spiraling out of control. He loved Alyssa, the woman he had vowed to cherish and protect, but her behavior was spiraling into a terrifying abyss. He yearned for the woman he had fallen in love with, the woman behind the manicured nails and designer sunglasses. Desperate, he tried to reason with her, to break through the wall of paranoia and delusion that had engulfed her. But each attempt was met with manipulation and denial, her words twisting his concerns into accusations, making him doubt his own sanity. The man who had once exuded confidence and charisma was now a shell of his former self, his spirit crushed under the weight of Alyssa's toxic love. Her behavior knew no bounds and was becoming increasingly erratic and disturbing day by day. But he was a man in love, and still wanted her by his side. Or we say he got too dependent on her that he had no chance but to live with her. For a while it seemed to him she's getting better, and his love will heal her. But as time went on, the facade began to crack, and he saw glimpses of the true manipulative nature that Alyssa possessed. Soon he'll realize that love shouldn't come at the cost of losing oneself. She started waking Ethan up in the middle of the night, accusing him of texting his colleague while he slept. She'd scream at him, throw things, and then collapse in tears, begging him to never leave her. One night in a fit of rage, she grabbed a pair of scissors and cut off a chunk of her own hair, blaming Ethan for her breakdown. She thought this way she'd keep him under her control, but all it did was push him further away. Ethan was horrified. He tried to calm her down, but she was inconsolable. The next day, she went to a salon and got a drastic new haircut, posting pictures online with captions about how Ethan had pushed her to the edge. He felt like he was living in a nightmare. But little did he know, this was just the beginning of a series of unexpected events. He knew he needed to leave. He couldn't keep living like this, walking on eggshells and constantly tiptoeing around her volatile moods. But every time he tried to bring it up, she would become even more erratic, threatening to harm herself if he left. Ethan's colleagues noticed the change in his appearance. He had lost weight, his eyes were sunken, and he seemed constantly on edge. They tried to talk to him, but he brushed off their concerns, saying he was just going through a rough patch. But as days turned into weeks, the weight of his decision grew heavier, and for a while it seemed like he would never find the courage to take that first step. One day, Ethan confided in his friend and colleague, Dr. Sarah Miller. He told her about Alyssa's behavior, the gaslighting, the isolation, and the abuse. Sarah was shocked and urged him to leave Alyssa immediately, fearing for his safety. But Ethan was hesitant. He was scared of Alyssa's reaction and the potential damage she could do to his career. He still held on to the hope that she would change, that their love could be saved. Sarah's words, however, had planted a seed of defiance in Ethan's weary soul. He started to think about a way out, a way to escape Alyssa's clutches and reclaim his life. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to try. Little did Ethan know, Alyssa had discovered his conversation with Sarah. She had been monitoring his phone calls and had heard everything. A cold fury washed over her, twisting her love into a venomous obsession. This betrayal, as she perceived it, solidified her belief that she needed to take extreme measures to protect their marriage and the image they had built together. Ethan began to notice strange occurrences around the house. His favorite watch, a Patek Philippe passed down from his grandfather, vanished from his bedside table. He searched high and low, growing increasingly frustrated and bewildered. Later that evening, he found it in the pantry, nestled amongst cans of soup. But soon a sense of unease crept in, hinting at something more unsettling beneath the surface. A few days later, his car keys disappeared. He was already late for a surgery, and the missing keys sent him into a panic. After a frantic search, he found them in the freezer, nestled amongst frozen vegetables. When he confronted Alyssa, she acted surprised and suggested he was simply overworked and stressed. And for a while, doubts lingered, casting shadows on what was once a sense of security. The incidents escalated. Ethan would misplace his phone, only to find it later, in the washing machine soaking wet. His medical textbooks would disappear from his study, only to reappear in the dog's bed. Each time, Alyssa would play innocent, suggesting his forgetfulness was a sign of a bigger problem. However, Alyssa's innocent facade masked a darker truth that Ethan was yet to uncover. Ethan started to doubt his own sanity. Was he losing his grip on reality? He sought help from a therapist, but Alyssa insisted on attending the sessions with him. During the sessions, she twisted his words, making him appear unstable and paranoid. The therapist, unaware of Alyssa's manipulation, suggested medication for stress and anxiety. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan became a prisoner in his own home, trapped in a web of manipulation and control. It felt like a suffocating reality, one he couldn't escape from. Alyssa installed security cameras throughout the house, monitoring his every move. She controlled his diet, forcing him to eat bland, unappetizing meals that she claimed were good for his health. She even began to dictate what clothes he could wear, choosing outfits that made him look dull and unappealing. It was as if his identity was being stripped away. one outfit at a time. One day, Ethan discovered a locked room in the basement. He had not seen it before, and Alyssa had always been vague about what was down there. Driven by curiosity and a desperate need for answers, he picked the lock and entered the room. The air was thick with anticipation, a mixture of fear and intrigue swirling within him. What he found inside chilled him to the bone. It was a moment frozen in time, one that would haunt him forever. The locked room was dimly lit, its walls adorned with disturbing images, photographs of Ethan with his female colleagues, their faces defaced with angry scribbles. The pictures told a story of betrayal and deceit, a narrative he couldn't comprehend. There were newspaper clippings about successful marriages, the headlines circled in red ink, and in the center of the room, a shrine-like display. It held a mannequin dressed in a wedding gown, its face replaced with a photo of Alyssa, and beside it, a collection of sharp objects, scalpels, knives, even a pair of gardening shears. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie, one that felt all too real to Ethan. A wave of nausea washed over. He knew in that instant that his wife had descended into madness. The room was a chilling testament to her obsession and the depths of her disturbed mind. He backed out slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. As the days passed, Alyssa's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She began accusing Ethan of poisoning her food, convinced he was plotting against her to be with someone else. Refusing to eat anything he prepared, she relied on protein shakes and prepackaged snacks. And just when Ethan thought things couldn't get worse, Alyssa's actions took a dangerous turn. One fateful evening, during what was supposed to be a quiet dinner, Ethan made a life-changing decision. He mustered the courage to tell Alyssa he wanted a divorce, unable to endure the turmoil any longer. As the words left his lips, an explosion of rage erupted from Alyssa. She flung her plate across the room, the sound of it crashing against the wall, reverberating through the tense air. Her eyes blazed with a mix of emotions as she launched herself at Ethan, her nails leaving angry marks on his face. Ethan, caught off guard, struggled to contain her, but her strength was unexpected. Managing to break free, Ethan retreated to the living room, hoping to calm the storm within Alyssa. Yet her fury knew no bounds. Seizing a decorative vase, she shattered it over Ethan's head, shards of glass scattering around him. Blood trickled down his forehead as he staggered back, a mix of disorientation and fear clouding his thoughts. And in that moment, the fragile threads holding their relationship together seemed to unravel completely. Alyssa, her face contorted with rage, grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter. Ethan, realizing the danger he was in, turned to flee, but it was too late. Alyssa lunged at him, the knife flashing in the dim light. And in that split second, everything changed. What followed was a scene of unimaginable horror, and as the chilling reality sank in, the silence of the night was shattered by the arrival of flashing police lights. The police were summoned later that night by a concerned neighbor who had heard the commotion. Upon their arrival, they discovered Ethan's lifeless body among the 123 meticulously placed stab wounds in the living room. However, Alyssa was nowhere to be found, prompting a manhunt and drawing the media to the quiet community of Malibu, eager to uncover the details of this shocking crime. Within the Blackwood mansion, investigators stumbled upon a trove of disturbing evidence. A locked room in the basement, Alyssa's chilling journal filled with paranoid ramblings and threats, and hidden cameras documenting her descent into madness. The discovery of Ethan's body and the subsequent revelations sent shockwaves through the community. The seemingly perfect couple had been harboring a dark secret, a secret that had ultimately led to a brutal and senseless act of violence. Alyssa's capture in San Diego, just 2 days after the murder, was swift and uneventful. She was found in a luxury hotel, seemingly calm and collected, as if she had simply been on vacation. But behind her composed facade, a chilling portrait of a deeply disturbed mind began to emerge. During questioning, Alyssa stuck to her innocence, telling a story of being a loyal wife pushed to her limits by her husband's cheating. She described Ethan as manipulative and unfaithful, driving her to madness. Yet the evidence was clear. Hidden cameras captured Alyssa's troubling decline, her obsessions, manipulation, and abuse towards Ethan. The footage depicted a woman consumed by jealousy and paranoia, convinced of Ethan's betrayal. Ethan's diary entries, tucked away in his office, revealed more about what was happening in their marriage. As Ethan poured his thoughts onto the pages, he talked about how Alyssa's behavior was becoming a concern and how he was feeling frightened and helpless. Slowly, a picture emerged of Alyssa's need for control and her unfounded accusations, weighing heavily on Ethan. Friends and colleagues who had been quiet at first began sharing their experiences. They remembered times when Alyssa was manipulative, possessive, and trying to keep Ethan away from his loved ones. A troubling pattern of control and abuse was coming to light, showing a side of Alyssa that few had glimpsed before. As the trial progressed, a team of top psychologists and psychiatrists delved into Alyssa's mind. Their discoveries revealed a complicated tale of a woman battling a serious personality disorder marked by extreme self-centeredness, paranoia, and an overwhelming need for control. Alyssa's defense team argued that she wasn't guilty by reason of insanity, claiming that her mental health had pushed her to commit the terrible act. They painted a picture of a woman haunted by illusions and struggling to rein in her impulses. Yet the prosecution contended that Alyssa's deeds were premeditated and intentional. They highlighted the meticulous nature of the 123 stab wounds, the methodical setup of the crime scene, and her efforts to conceal her role. They portrayed her as a cunning manipulator who was fully aware of her actions. The trial captivated the nation, with each day bringing fresh headlines and surprising insights. People were drawn to the shocking details of the case and the transformation of a seemingly perfect wife into a cold-blooded killer. As Alyssa, impeccably dressed in designer suits, maintained an aura of calm and innocence, it seemed like she held all the answers. However, beneath her composed exterior lay a world of turmoil and secrets waiting to be uncovered. Her defense team, led by a renowned attorney, fought passionately for her innocence. They painted a picture of a woman pushed to the brink by betrayal and mistreatment. With each expert witness recounting Alyssa's struggles and vulnerabilities, it became clear that her past held more darkness than anyone had imagined. On the other side, the prosecution weaved a different narrative. They portrayed Alyssa as a master of deception, driven by envy and a thirst for dominance. Witness after witness testified to her erratic actions and disturbing tendencies, painting a chilling portrait of a woman teetering on the edge of control. The jury sat on the edge of their seats as both sides presented their arguments, carefully considering the evidence and testimonies. They watched hours of footage from hidden cameras, revealing secrets never meant to be seen. The chilling excerpts from Alyssa's journal painted a haunting picture, sending shivers down their spines. After days of debates and discussions, the jury finally came to a decision. They declared Alyssa Blake guilty of first-degree murder, dismissing any doubts of her sanity. A gasp swept through the courtroom as the verdict was announced. Alyssa, who had maintained a facade of strength, finally crumbled under the weight of reality, tears flowing freely, her composure shattered. The judge, in his final words, condemned Alyssa's actions as unforgivable, describing them as heinous, cold-blooded, and devoid of any remorse. He handed down a sentence of life in prison without the chance of parole, marking the end of a trial that had captured the nation's attention. The aftermath of the trial was a time of reflection and reckoning. Ethan's family and friends mourned the loss of a beloved son, brother, and friend. They struggled to come to terms with the brutal nature of his death and the shocking truth about his wife.